stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
God,
indivisible,
visible,
with
with
liberty.
liberty and justice for all.
for all. Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2020 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2019, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Mr. Adams?
Here.
Mr. Daffis?
Here.
Mr. DeLuca?
Here.
Mr. Lembrick?
Here.
Mayor McGehee?
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires all meetings of public bodies be open to the public. And whereas Section 7A provides that the governing body has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting. And whereas it desires the governing body to comply with the provision of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be resolved by the Township Committee, Township of Maplewood, does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in the deliberations of the governing body by the public, and except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observation of the actions and discussions of the governing body at all of its regular and special meetings.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGehee?
Yes, and thank you, Ms. Fritzen. And good evening and welcome to the Tuesday, June 16th, Maplewood Township Committee meeting. I'll run through the agenda briefly, and then we will begin. We will first start off the meeting with two employee spotlights. We're recognizing Police Officer Diana Gill, and we'll also be recognizing Nick Waltz, who's with us this evening, who's all things including IT. We have two proclamations for this evening. We have one for Black Friday, Juneteenth or June 19th, and also a proclamation for Caribbean Heritage Month. After that, we will have our first public comment on agenda items only. We have, looks like 13 attendees. So if you have something you want to discuss that's on the agenda, please raise your hand and we will allow you to speak. Again, agenda items only. We will then have our 2020 municipal budget hearing, if you will. There'll be a resolution. We'll discuss that. Then we'll have the hearing, and then we will close the hearing and go into a motion in that regard. We have two ordinances on final passage. The first one is the installation of a multi-way or four-way stop signs at Burnett and Rucker Street. And then we also have another installation of multi-way stop signs or four-way stop signs at Prospect and Harvard Avenue. After we go through the potential passage of those two ordinances, we'll move on here our reports from our departments. Then we will have our administrative reports from Ms. Riveros, Ms. Fritzen, and Mr. Desiderio. We will then have reports from elected officials. And then at that point, we'll move on to agenda item number 20, which is our discussion items. Tonight, we have two discussion items. We'll be discussing the 2020 Maplewood Community Pool fees and procedures. Mr. Limbrick will lead that discussion. And then we'll talk about accessory dwelling units and a proposed ordinance by Committeeman DeLuca. We will then move into our consent agenda tonight. Not too bad, only 13 items on the consent agenda. They include contracts, authorization for the purchase of trucks for our public works, purchase of a bus for our public works, and a Caterpillar for our public works. So we'll be acquiring a lot of well-needed equipment for our public works this evening. We will also have a resolution rejecting our bids for the town hall roof and HVAC replacement. We'll move on and have another resolution in regards to the restoration of our town hall front walkway, long overdue, tripping hazard if you ask me. Bills and claims. We will also have a resolution requesting permission for a declaration rider. for outside employment, authorization online tax sale, the tax sale of mailing fees, the awarding of a contract for ADA improvements at various locations in our township. We'll then go on to a resolution authorizing the township for the application grant for a national Volkswagen settlement program. And then we'll go on and have the approval of our closed session minutes from June 2nd, which there were none. At that point, we'll go into our second and final public comment, which is any item that does have to be agenda, so any subject matter, and then we will adjourn. So the last two meetings have lasted for 2.5 hours, so it is my hope that we can, and I'm not trying to jinx us, that we can move quickly and be done before 10 o'clock. All right, with that being said, I'd like to make one quick announcement. Tonight, we're having voter registration there at Town Hall. So if you want to, if for those who are watching, attendees, you want to go ahead and put something on your social media, you know, on your Instagram, whatever, let residents know who they haven't registered to vote, that they have approximately 1 hour and 15 minutes to come down to Town Hall and to vote. Remember, your vote is your voice. Thank you very much. We will now start with our first employee spotlight, which is Police Officer Diana Gill. Mr. Limbrick will read that proclamation, and I will, and Nick, we can invite Ms. Gill from attendee into panelists. That would be great if you haven't.
She's here.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will read the resolution honoring Police Officer Diana Gill. Whereas the Township of Maplewood, and particularly the Maplewood Police Department, has been fortunate to have dedicated staff committed to the mission of our township. And whereas tonight we are recognizing Officer Gill for her commitment to the residents of our town and for continually stepping up and addressing projects, requests, and responsibilities that go above and beyond, especially in these past few months in the pandemic. And whereas we as the Township Committee wish to extend our utmost appreciation for the work that Officer Gill has done to make public service an exciting and joyous experience for the residents of Maplewood. And whereas we wish to extend our sincere best wishes for Officer Gill in the future and her continued success in the Maplewood Police Department and making the township a desirable place to live and work. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Maplewood Township Committee recognizes and appreciates the service of Police Officer Diana Gill and wishes her well in all future endeavors. And further, that this resolution of appreciation and support be duly recorded by the Township Clerk on this 16th day of June 2020. Thank you, Officer Gill.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the honor.
You are.
Speech, any comments?
Well, like I said, it's a very big honor to be placed in this position. I never thought that it would happen, but it is, and here we are now. So I really appreciate you guys noticing my effort and my work that I've done in the community, and it's an honor. Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Mayor, if I may add a couple comments here. Ms. Gill shared with me, if I may first, I ask.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. So Officer Gill, you knew I was going to go public with this, and we talked about it before, so here it goes. I want to wish you, in light of Pride Month, June is Pride Month, I want to wish you a happy Pride. We talked about recently the courage that you had to serve openly as a police officer, to make the decision, first of all, as a Hispanic woman, to serve as in law enforcement, considering some of the bias that's out there in the Hispanic community and in general, not just in the Hispanic community, and to do so with such courage that you have and with such visibility, openly, unapologetically, and with great professionalism. I just want to say thank you for being such an incredible role model. Representation really, really matters at all levels, and you're living proof of that. And we're so grateful for your service. Happy Pride.
Thank you. Saying thanks to you. Happy Pride. So I'm very honored. I'm very pleased to know that my effort and my work ethics have been noticed by you, and I'm hoping that the community can notice it as well, with one approach at a time, with anyone I encounter. And we want to just make a difference and let the community know that we, the police department, are doing our best effort to make the community feel safe and know that we have we want the best for them, and that we are trying our hardest, working to our best ability to make the community feel safe, for them to know that we are there for them, and we just want to all work together in this.
Thank you, Officer Gill.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it as well.
Yeah, I think you're a wonderful example of, even in this climate that we're in. When we made this decision based on your character and what you bring to our community. And I do not lump you into the other situations that are happening around us or even close to us. That is not you. Your character is strong and it's positive, and it's the type of character that I want, and we all want our community to see and represent us. So thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, we have another employee spotlight. Without further ado, this person happens to be the host, no less. So you can unmute yourself, but first let Ms. Adams go ahead and read the employee spotlight. Ms. Adams.
Sure. This is a resolution in recognition and appreciation of Nicholas Waltz. Nick is always, I see him deliver my mail and on Fridays and yell out the window usually, right, Nick? Yeah, no, he does. He's there for all of us at every TC meeting, and also just in the recreation department, and working hard to do whatever he's asked of. And so because of that, whereas the Township of Maplewood has been fortunate to have dedicated staff committed to the mission of this municipality, and whereas recognizing this employee for his commitment to the residents of our town by stepping up and addressing projects, requests, or responsibilities above and beyond, and whereas we as the Township Committee wish to express our utmost appreciation for the work that you have done to make public service an exciting and joyous experience for the residents of the Township of Maplewood. And whereas the Township Committee wishes to extend our sincere best wishes for every happiness in the future to your continued success in making the township a desirable place to work. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Maplewood Township Committee recognizes and appreciates the service of employee Nicholas Waltz, Recreation Manager, Department of Community Service. And we wish you well in future endeavors, but you can't go anywhere because we just gave you this. That this resolution of appreciation and support be duly recorded by the Township Committee on this, the 16th day of the month of June in this crazy year of 2020. Can I get them?
Thank you, guys. Ms. Adams, thank you very much, and the rest of the Township Committee. It's much appreciated. I know my family's watching, so I thank them for everything.
I know that.
Thank you guys very much. I really appreciate this, and I love this town. I grew up here, so anything I can do to make this place a better and more wholesome community, I'm going to try and do my best. And without my rec team, without Jamie, who makes me look like a rock star, and my boss, who puts me in a success, Melissa, to succeed, I wouldn't be anywhere without them. So I thank you guys all very much, and it's very much appreciated. And I'm going to try and make this Zoom call as flawless as possible going forward. So I thank you guys all very much.
Thank you, Nick. Thanks for letting us see you for a second.
Nick, you are a rock star, sir, and a gentleman at that. Thanks for everything that you're doing.
But if we don't like you, we can always get your twin brother in there.
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
Mayor.
Nick, thank you. It goes without saying, Nick is, using a baseball analogy, because Nick is one of the best shortstops in all of Essex County, and I can attest to that. We played each other in leagues before, fast pitch softball. He's a utility infielder. Nick steps in everything we do. As Ms. Adams mentioned, from delivering the mail to stepping in and usually running when we're in the chambers. He's running a camera and he's in charge of that and doing the best he can with that equipment, to managing multiple programs under our rec department, to stepping up for any event that we have, any rally. He's always there. So Nick, thank you for that. Thank you for your service.
And Nick, I want to have a catch, Nick. I didn't know we were both shortstops.
Oh, he's a beast.
I love it.
I love
I call him
it. Too.
Jeter. I call him Jeter. He's a
I miss
beast.
it. I miss it.
So thank you, Nick, and thank you, Ms. Adams. We'll now move on to our number 6 agenda item. It's our proclamation for Black Friday. I want to recognize that Gregory Osborne is here with us as an attendee. Gregory had reached out to me and thought it was important that the Township of Maplewood recognize Black Friday and also Juneteenth. And this is a little bit before some of the unfortunate climate that we're in today. So I'll go ahead and read the proclamation. Whereas Maplewood is a diverse and inclusive community in which our residents take pride in our diversity and believe in safety, prosperity, equality, and hope for all who live or work in our town. And whereas the people of Maplewood recognize the human rights of all citizens and support an end to all forms of prejudice and discrimination. And whereas Black Friday creates a unified platform for Black stories, voices, art, and whereas Black Friday celebrates Black brilliance, which is the ability to shine light on exceptional talents of Black people in our community and around the world. And whereas Black Friday acknowledges the fight for Black liberation while celebrating the emancipation of slavery in 1865, Black people are still seeking and fighting for freedom from oppression, stereotypes, racial inequality, financial inequality, and injustice. And whereas Black Friday shows Black appreciation, highlighting the ones that have come before us, who have set the bar for Black excellence, and those who are continuing to move Black diaspora forward. And whereas Black Friday amplifies Black consciousness, making communities aware of what it means to be Black in America, through open dialogue on race and injustice, to come to an understanding of who Black people are. And whereas Black Friday displays Black knowledge, sharing Black history and culture that has made America great. And whereas Friday comes in lieu of an often overlooked and under-celebrated American holiday in which slavery was abolished in Texas, June 19th, AKA Juneteenth, AKA Freedom Day, AKA Celebration Day, and Black 4th of July. And whereas Black Friday petitions to make June 19th a national holiday. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Maplewood, we do by and hereby proclaim June 19th, 2020 as Black Friday in the Township of Maplewood, and encourage all citizens to join in the celebration of Black brilliance, to fight for Black liberation, to show Black appreciation, and to amplify Black consciousness and highlight Black knowledge from this day forth. Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Osborne, and thank you to all the youth that have been working so diligently to help bring to light the celebration of Juneteenth. As you know, we're going to be doing a forum at 7 o'clock on Friday. I'll get more into that later. But after that forum at 8:30 by the Gazebo at Maple Crest Park, there will be a celebration of Juneteenth. And all are invited, all are welcome to dance and celebrate and enjoy the Blackness. And we'll be doing that. So thank you so much. We'll now move on to our proclamation regarding Caribbean Heritage Month. Mr. Daffis.
Thank you, Mayor. As we're witnessing a monumental shift, we're bearing witness to a significant movement toward justice once and for all for Black lives in our nation. We do so in solidarity with our Caribbean Americans as well, of course. The contribution of our Caribbean brothers and sisters must be recognized in our country, one of the most significant contributions of our Caribbean brothers and sisters to this country was when Haitians participated in the fight for America's freedom in Savannah in 1779. For that reason alone, we must not leave the people of Haiti behind in our quest for social justice. It was on the Caribbean island of Haiti in 1803 that freedom of Black slaves took place and gave rise to human rights. To this day, Caribbeans and Caribbean Americans are part of the lifeblood and strength of Americans, and we thank our Caribbean community and appreciate their contributions to this country. During COVID-19 pandemic, our Caribbean brothers and sisters have been adversely impacted. Please know that you are not alone in this battle. We pledge to continue to best serve you, Caribbean Americans and Caribbean residents of Maplewood, to keep you safe and healthy as we are in this battle together, and we will continue to work to make sure that your voices are heard. And through our collaborative efforts, we will win our battle for social justice. For Maplewood is a diverse and inclusive community in which our residents take pride in our diversity, all of our diversity, and believe in the safety, prosperity, equality, and hope for all who live and work in our town. In Maplewood, we recognize the human rights of all citizens and residents and support to end all forms of prejudice and discrimination. Therefore, on your behalf, Mr. Mayor, Frank McGehee, Mayor of the Township of Maplewood, and on behalf of my colleagues of the Township of Maplewood's governing body, the Maplewood Township Committee, we do hereby proclaim June 2020 as Caribbean Heritage Month in the Township and urge all of our residents to celebrate diversity and inclusion, promote equality, acknowledge the achievements and contributions of the Caribbean community, and encourage all citizens and residents to join in celebration from this day forth. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also want to take this opportunity to acknowledge one of our great local Caribbean advocates, Ms. Elsie Altara Bernier, who is Haitian herself and who has done tremendous work in creating greater awareness of Caribbean Americans and their concerns in our community. And we really, really could not do this without Elsie. Also, on a personal note, Elsie does a lot of LGBTQ outreach and advocacy in her native Haiti, where LGBTQ community is under attack. And I personally thank Elsie for her work, again, in light of June being Pride Month. So it's beautiful how this all intersects, right? We're all in this together. Equality for one, equality for all. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Daffis. And merci beaucoup, LC. We are now on agenda item number 8, our public comment period. Would anyone like to, well, I do see, I think, one person here, Nick, that would like to address the Township Committee.
Okay, Mayor, I'm going to allow them to talk now.
Awesome, thank you. I'll unmute. The individual's muted. Trying to unmute.
The only thing I can do is ask them to unmute. I can't ask them to.
Oh, they're muted themselves. Yeah, I don't think I can. If you would like to speak, N-A-L-I-N-I, your hand is raised. You have to unmute yourself. All right, technology. Would you like to speak? Let's see. All right, I just sent communication. We'll give them about 10 seconds.
Yeah, I think that I just sent it to all panelists and attendees. I think you just sent it to all panelists.
Yeah.
So it
Okay, we'll just have to move on because we do want to finish. We can get back to the second agenda item.
Yeah, Mayor, they can type it in the chat as well.
Yeah, we'll just do that. That's fine. That's right, Ms. Adams. Okay, moving on. So agenda item number 9, our 2020 municipal budget. All right.
Yes, Mayor.
So Ms. Fritzen, go ahead.
Mayor, this is a time fixed for the virtual public hearing on the 2020 municipal budget. The budget was approved by the governing body on May 5th, 2020, was advertised as required by law on May 21st, 2020, together with notice of hearing for this time. Printed copies have been made available to the public during the past week and for anyone desiring a copy.
Anyone who has not secured a copy of the budget may do so now.
Mayor, I have a resolution regarding the reading of the budget by title only.
I offer the foregoing resolution and move its adoption.
Resolution is adopted. Before opening this hearing, I wish to outline the procedure. Each person desiring to be heard will give his or her name and address before speaking. I will recognize one speaker at a time, as nearly as I can determine. Address all questions to the chair where necessary, and they will be referred to individual members of the governing body or municipal officials. Questions must be confined solely to the municipal budget before us. School or county matters are not proper subjects of this hearing and cannot be discussed or answered here tonight. I now declare the opening of the public hearing on the 2020 municipal budget. Observing no further applicants for the floor, I will entertain a motion to close the hearing.
I offer the foregoing resolution and move its adoption. Oh, I'm sorry. May I have a resolution at present at this time? I have a resolution to present at this time amending the municipal budget for the year 2020.
The clerk will read the resolution.
Resolution number 147-20. The resolution to amend the 2020 budget.
I offer the foregoing resolution and move its adoption.
Can I get a second, please?
I second it.
All right. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick,
Yes.
Mayor McGee.
Yes. The resolution is adopted.
Mayor, I move that the adoption of this budget be postponed pending further review by the division.
May I get a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion about this postponement? Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick,
Yes.
Mayor McGee.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Fritzen.
Mayor,
Now-
we have a question in the Q&A related to, sort of related to the budget and contract. I don't know if you want to deal with it at this time.
Okay, let me see if I can find it. Oh, Q&A, sorry.
I can read it if you want. I want to read it out loud so the public can hear it.
Go ahead, Ms. Adams, that's fine, thank you.
From Edgar Galvez of 37 Boyden Ave. At the March 19th Township Committee meeting, Mayor McGee described the timing of the contract negotiations with Maplewood Police and Fire Departments as the quote, perfect storm, unquote, because they were both due this year. My questions are the following. Number one, is it unusual for these renewals to occur in the same year? If so, what happened this year that caused them both to be due at the same time. I am asking because if we can control when these contracts are renewed, then we can temper the rate at which taxes increase for the residents. Number two, how can we get a copy of the terms and conditions of these contracts?
Awesome. Thank you, Ms. Adams. I will let Ms. Viveros answer this question regarding the contracts.
Sure, thank you, Mayor. So our contracts are all up at the same time. They've always been up at the same time, and they're all typically a 4-year contract. Typically, you know, when you're negotiating, I would say there's 8 contracts in total. It's a bit cumbersome, but at the same time, it also leverages the township to kind of compare and contrast some of these different bargaining units. So at this time, the way we've been negotiating their 4-year contract, if there were conversations with different unions about extensions or reductions in contracts, then, you know, but that hasn't been necessarily the circumstance. So all contracts in Maplewood Township have a 4-year term, and they all end up at the same time. If anybody would like a copy of the contracts, they can certainly file an Oprah request, and we can provide that to them. Right now, the contracts expired last year. We've negotiated a couple of them. There are MOAs out there. However, the contracts themselves are being drafted as we speak. Either way, much of the terms haven't really changed. So if they'd like a copy of it, by all means, they can send out an Oprah request.
Could you say what Oprah is?
Sure. It's the Open Public Records Act, and that is a form that you can retrieve online or through the township clerk's office. You can do it via email at this time and anytime, really. And we'll get that to you within 7 days. Relatively, we can get that relatively quickly to you, so long as you fill it out.
Mayor, you're on mute.
Thank you. I was thanking Ms. Viveros and I was thanking Mr. Galvez for his question. So thank you both. I will now move on to agenda item number 14, resolution number 14720.
Mayor, I believe we've done this.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. DeLuca. That's correct. That was the resolution to amend the budget that you voted unanimously approving. So now we're on item 15.
15.
Okay, that's an ordinance on final passage, ordinance number 3000-20. It's an ordinance to direct the installation of a multi-way stop signs at Burnett Avenue and Rucker Street. This ordinance will direct the installation of multi-way stop signs at Burnett Avenue and Rucker Street.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the public in accordance with the law. Would anyone like to speak on this ordinance?
Nobody, Mayor.
Seeing or hearing no one, I will now close the hearing. May I receive a motion, please? Ms. Adams.
I went through that whole thing and I was muted the whole time. Sorry. I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole. The clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick,
Yes.
Mayor McGehee.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Agenda item number 16.
Next is item 16, ordinance on final passage, read by title. It's ordinance number 3001-20. It's an ordinance to direct the installation of multi-way stop signs at Prospect Street and Harvard Avenue. This ordinance will direct the installation of multi-way stop signs at Prospect Street and Harvard Avenue.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the public in accordance with the law. Would anyone like to speak on this ordinance? Seeing or hearing no one, I will now close the hearing. May I get a motion, Ms. Adams?
I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
So do look, can we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Mayor, I just want to say that this ordinance and the previous ordinance were part of our pedestrian safety program that we got a grant from the New Jersey Department of Transportation a couple of years back to hire a consultant. And we have more efforts that we're going to use on both Prospect Street and Burnett Avenue to control traffic and make pedestrians safer.
Thank you, Mr. DeLuca. Absolutely. These two areas have been hot spots for some time. And I thank you for your efforts as well on this. And we are listening to our residents and trying to find ways to keep people more safe. And one of these intersections is right by one of our schools. And we hope that it will enhance the safety of those children walking to school in the fall. So please call the roll.
Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGehee?
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. We'll now have our reports from departments. Ms. Viveros, do we have any reports for this evening, or are we just gonna go into administrative reports?
We can go ahead and just do the administrative reports. I think the community services report will be outlined in detail by Mr. Lembrecht. So I'll go over a couple things here. So no one else.
Okay, thank you. We'll just go ahead and that's a nice segue. So why don't you go ahead and start?
Sure. First, I'd also like to comment on the employee highlights. Nick and Diana are two of the new generation that are being added to our township family, and our future looks ever promising. So I'm really proud to have employees like Nick and Diana at our side. So just like to also echo from administration standpoint that we see their efforts and we like to highlight that too. Second thing, Maplewood Village, including Springfield Avenue Partnership, we're trying to work with both of the SIDs to accommodate for the outdoor dining, sidewalk sales. First thing, foremost is the safety of our patrons at these businesses. And so with the efforts of DPW, engineering, police departments, inspectors, you name it, everybody was out there yesterday really trying to pull it together to make sure that we were ensuring that everybody was safe in the village. And of course on Springfield Avenue, right now we're highlighting the farmers market and the Yale Corner. So just to leverage some of that for our Springfield Avenue merchants. So we're working with both the SIDs to make sure that everyone is, all the merchants are being afforded any sort of opportunity, and that's if we need to provide barriers, things like that. So thank you to all the departments that are getting together to make these applications also turn around very quickly. Second thing, I just want to highlight one of the resolutions, and that's for a grant. It's the Volkswagen Settlement Program, and that is for jitney, the jitney buses, so electrical buses. So it'll very well take a while. If we do get the grant next year, what that program does, we trade in 3 of our current buses for electrical buses. So given the state of where we are with DPW renovating, removing the tanks, I think that's a really great addition, environmentally speaking, as we highlight a lot of different things that are currently happening. I just want to point that out, that's what that resolution is for. We extended the testing over at the OEM building with Salerno for this week. They are using our OEM building. I think the turnout was fascinating. And with that, thank you to Candace Davenport, our health officer, who's also extended that to township employees. So we're looking at June 29th to offer that service solely for our township employees, and of course, all of you as well. So that's for the antibody testing and for regular COVID testing. So with that, I'd also like to just bring everyone up to speed for those, for the public who might not typically be part of our OEM meetings. We've had several of them since the beginning of March. Our latest was with regard to opening up some of our facilities. Currently, right now, we are not open to the public, but what we are offering is online services. But we will shortly offer services in DPW, and that means with recycling and electronic recycling. So we're going to get something out on Friday to alert the public that beginning next week, we're going to open that to the public. Additionally, we have the primary elections. Liz can expand on that and what we're doing with that in our buildings that we're going to be providing that to. Our pool is opening July 6th. I was part of that conversation. And one of the things I'd like to do is also update our operational plan for the public and post it on our website, just so everyone knows where we are with our operations. We've made sure that all PPE has been provided to township employees, and anyone, if they happen to not be able to have something with them, we will provide that to them. So, Mayor, that is all that I have for my report. If anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Veros. We appreciate your report. A lot of things happening in the township, especially as we try to thoughtfully reopen our amenities, our business districts, our facilities, and keep everyone safe at the same time. Any questions for Mr. Veros?
No, I would just like to thank Ms. Viveros for this has been a really complicated time, a lot going on. And I just want to thank you for your competence in taking care of so many things and juggling so many balls in the air at one time. It's been a lot for everybody, but you know, you're in the hot seat. So thanks for all your work the last couple months.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. Would anyone else like to address Mr. Veros? Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Veros. Thank you again. Mr. Desiderio.
All right, Rob.
Okay,
So I'm gonna ask him.
I am unmuted. Okay.
There we go.
Good evening, Mayor. How are you?
Good evening, sir. Thank you.
I have two things. I sent to the Township Committee on June the 12th a memo regarding giving up the right-of-way of Essex Avenue as it tees into the Clinton School area. There was a discussion between Mr. Kittner and a engineer or consultant with regard to the expansion of Clinton School. And what they're asking, well, what's being asked generally is that that portion of Essex Avenue that's really a paper street be vacated. So I want to bring it to your attention. We've yet to get a specific request from the Board of Education, but if and when we do, and if you are inclined to do it, then there would be an ordinance that would allow for the vacating of that portion of Essex Avenue that passes beyond Garfield Place. So I bring that and ask if there's any questions or if you generally have a sense as to whether or not you'd be willing to do this, assuming an appropriate request comes in.
I'll open the floor to my colleagues. I've read it and I just let's have a discussion.
Mr. Mayor, if I can just weigh in. Yeah, I mean, as Mr. Desiderio said, this is a, what's known as a paper street. It exists sort of on plans, but it's not currently a street. There's not pavement there. the street ends before what they're asking us to give up. You know, it's just a right of way. So if we had wanted to extend the street, we could have. I don't think, you know, given the location of Clinton School there, that we would ever be looking to extend the street. I think that, you know, if this is necessary for the expansion and renovation they're doing in Clinton, and, you know, this is really just sort of a legal nicety that they need us to sign off on this before they go ahead and go forward with the plans. I think we should do that. I see no reason not to. And I would, once we get the request from the Board of Education, I would support us accepting it.
Thank you, Mr. Lindbergh.
I
Any
agree.
other comments?
I agree.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. DeLuca. Ms. Adams?
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Mr. Daffis?
No objections.
Perfect. It's unanimous, Mr. Desiderio.
Okay, what I have asked Mr. Kittner to follow up with the Board of Education to see what they're going to make that request. So once they do, we'll put an ordinance on, and I'll just remind you that we had previously discussed it, et cetera. My second thing is the renovations to the community pool. Last meeting, you passed a resolution awarding a contract to Mid-Atlantic Construction and Design for $1,409,700. Since that time, several things have occurred. First off, we discovered that there was an error in the amount, and it should be $1,469,100. And there is a resolution to that effect on the agenda for this evening, 135-20. In addition, we received an objection to the award of contracts to Mid-Atlantic Construction with regard to the bid, effectively challenging the experience that Mid-Atlantic had. We received a correspondence from counsel for the objector, and we received correspondence from counsel for Mid-Atlantic, SCLAR and SCLAR. I provided that to you. I think Mrs. Fritzen sent the SCLAR and SCLAR material again today, but I had previously sent it to you. In any event, it's the position of both the engineering department, our consultant, who is Mutual, as in Stan Mutual, architectural group, and myself, that the contract should continue to be awarded to Mid-Atlantic Construction and Design Associates. And we would suggest that you entertain and pass the resolution amending the contract amount to $1,469,100 tonight. So if there's any questions, but I just want to offer that by way of explanation.
Any discussion? You're right, Mr. Desiderio. We have the material. I actually have it up in front of me here. Any discussion regarding what Mr. Desiderio has communicated and his recommendation?
I agree with the recommendation. I do have a question for Mr. Desiderio. How many people you think know who Stan Musial is?
Well, you and me.
Baseball.
Well, you, me, and anyone from St. Louis, Mr. DeLuca.
Okay, so that's one person who's in favor. Anyone else? Thoughts, comments, Mr. Lindbergh, Ms. Adams? Daffis?
I think we should go ahead as we planned.
Agreed.
Okay, Ms. Adams?
Fine, as long as it's Stan the man.
So that resolution will be on the consent agenda for your consideration. And the amendment was, there was just an issue of extras and the like, and that's where that difference came in. So it should have been the $1,469,000 right from the beginning. So that's all I have, Mayor, unless there are any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Desiderio. And on your advice, we will move forward with that resolution. Any more questions for Mr. Desiderio? Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Desiderio. Ms. Fritzen, our township clerk, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. So I think I'll start out first with the primary election, which is 3 weeks away from today. It's on Tuesday, July 7th. And we've been making a lot of plans and preparations. I would say first that I'm hearing that most Maplewood voters have received their ballot already. Additionally, I just want to reiterate, well, it's early here. We have approximately 31 minutes left. If there's anyone that needs to register to vote, the township clerk's office will be open for 31 more minutes until 9:00 p.m. for the opportunity to register to vote. The back door is open, and come on down. The two polling locations that are really set up for nothing more than one machine at each location. And the locations again are the Woodland at 60 Woodland Road and the Maplewood Community Center at DeHart Park. It's at 120 Burnett Avenue, are basically for anyone who did not utilize their vote by mail ballot. They would be able to vote provisionally at those two Maplewood locations. Also, anyone that due to ADA needs to utilize a voting machine for hearing impaired, sight impaired, there will be one machine at each location. Again, I want to stress that machine is not for anyone else to utilize. You would be voting on a paper ballot, which is called a provisional ballot. So again, as we keep stressing, this is a vote by mail election. So we've had walkthroughs of both locations, and I thank my colleagues that have been wonderful in joining me and the recommendations for sanitation, safety, signage. So we're working on all of that. Again, we still have the time, obviously, with the election 3 weeks away, but we have been actively working on everything that we need to do from the township's end to have a safe and reliable election. So if anyone has any questions before I move on to the next topic, that'd be fine.
I do, Liz. So I have my mail-in ballot, see. So is there something on our website that kind of gives directions? It's more complicated than our so-called president implies in his, it's easy to fake these and kids are stealing them out of mailboxes. So this is more complicated than I think most people think. So is there any direction that we can provide in addition to what's here, or can they call your office to be walked through it for the public?
Absolutely. We've also provided on the website some instructions, not necessarily how to actually do the balloting, but we also have the YouTube feed up from Mr. Durkin, the Essex County Clerk, who gives a complete run through from start to finish as to how to complete and vote by mail ballot. Of course, any resident that is interested, needs help, can call the clerk's office, can email me. We'd be happy to help anybody and explain anything. So you can, certainly get that word out there, and we will as well. But, we're here to help anybody that might have a question.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Adams.
All right, Mayor, I have just to give a brief synopsis of where we are with outdoor dining, the cafes, just from administrative end, outdoor merchandise, sidewalk retail, and also outdoor businesses in our parks and parking lots. So as you know, I was charged with being the recipient of the temporary event applications that basically dealt with just that. Our new outdoor dining cafes, sidewalk merchandise, retail, and again, outdoor businesses, exercise businesses, yoga businesses in parks and parking lots. So from an administrative end, we have gotten a lot of applications. And I have to say that all the promises that the Township of Maplewood made to retail businesses and restaurants, I mean, we have followed through. Pretty much from the day that an application came in, it was reviewed for completeness. And we did have to chase a lot of people down, I'll admit that. For different parts, we were getting applications in piecemeal. But for the most part, within the same day, inspectors at least had the areas that they needed to go out. The building department and the fire department have been fabulous. So we've been turning them around as promised within 24 hours. So kudos to those two departments really for living up to the speed that we kind of promised. We have right now also 3 restaurants that went through the process of the COVID-19 special ABC license for expansion of their ABC license. And they're all up and running. Again, 3 applications. They were signed off really quickly. And that's the 3 restaurants that we've heard from. I'm sure more will follow, but it seems like we get applications for one of these 3 categories: the cafes, the sidewalk merchandise, or to utilize a park daily, probably anywhere from 3 to 5 every day. So again, I couldn't do it alone. The departments have all been doing walkthroughs, and the outdoor cafe, certainly with the parklets, and the checking of the tables and the signage and the pickup areas. So it's really been a huge Township of Maplewood departmental team effort. So any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Fritzen?
I'm going to stop there.
Okay. Well, Ms. Fritzen, as Ms. Adams alluded, I just wanted to thank you and thank Ms. Riveros and everyone really on the staff, on the team. What we're dealing with right now is unprecedented. We're, so many extra processes that had to be in place, layered on top of other procedures that have been historical. They make everything twice as challenging, in terms of that process, physically, and also in terms of paperwork and everything along the lines. And I know you're down to a couple people on your team right now, and so you're doing a lot of work, and you're doing the work of multiple people, and we appreciate your efforts, especially, your work's increased and your team is decreased for various circumstances. So we do appreciate that. And the work of the DPW as well, we give them credit. They found those cinder blocks and got them to certain key areas in our town, the village, for example, and that's gonna, we keep our people safe while they dine and enjoy our businesses. But thank you also for the complexity of having getting the voting process done. I mean, this is I'm sure you've never seen this in all your years. Something where everything is vote by mail first and versus the other way around. So thank you for that.
First,
anyone else want to ask or address Ms. Fritzen? Hearing no one, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. We'll now hear from our elected officials. Mr. DeLuca.
Just one item. I just want to mention that the week of June 15th to the 21st is Men's Health Week. And only 60% of men get a yearly exam. I know we've talked about this over the years. our Congressman Donald Payne is the co-chair of the Congressional Men's Health Caucus. So I just urge all the men out there to go get tested and get an exam, and the women who have men in your lives, fathers, brothers, spouses, partners, friends, encourage them to man up and go to the doctor.
They need to woman up and go to the doctor.
There you go.
This is Men's Health Week.
No, I know. I'm just saying manning up isn't working, so they should woman up.
There you go. That was a good one. Thank you, Mr. DeLuca. Mr. Daffis.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple items here. Outdoor dining as the liaison to the Maplewood Village Alliance. I've been working very closely with Ms. Fritzen, who's been incredible, and Ms. Riveros as well in being on the ground and making sure that all of our retailers have what they need to settle into this new reality. And I have to say, while there's been a lot of troubleshooting, no doubt, and balancing out different interests in terms of the dining and the traffic flow and the parking spaces, and ensuring that we are allowing for everything, making allowances for the dining and for the 15-minute curbside pickup, and keeping our handicapped spaces undisturbed, and making sure delivery zones are undisturbed, and of course ensuring pedestrian safety. It's pretty amazing how quickly all of this has come together. As you know, Mayor, we found out about 12 days ago that this was going to start happening yesterday, June 15th being the official start of phase 2 on the road back to recovery, on the road back to reopening our society and our local economy. So it's pretty incredible that we've been able to do what we can. And as you've seen yourself, Mayor, in the village, a lot of our restaurants have already taken up outdoor dining, the opportunity, and it's great. It's wonderful. And we encourage our residents to support our local businesses. As Ms. Fritzen reported, we've been working very closely with our public health officer. We're doing compliance audits. We want people to know that it is safe to go and dine outside. So please take advantage of it. And we hope that you'll support our local businesses to thrive during this new normal. I've also been working with Ms. Fritzen on the elections. As she mentioned, we put out a couple of communication pieces to let people know when to expect their ballots, who's getting a ballot, who's getting an application, when everything is due. And I've joined Ms. Fritzen and the other department heads in the walkthroughs, again, to make sure that those who wish to vote in person on election day, on primary day, July 7th, that they have the confidence in doing so, that they know that when they arrive, we will have taken every public health precaution to ensure their safety. Behind me, you could see a map of the United States in the beautiful pride and transgender colors. It's intersectional as well. Black Lives Matter, all Black Lives Matter. Yesterday, as you know, Mayor, we received a landmark decision by the Supreme Court of the United States, adding sexual orientation and gender identity to employment protections under Title VII of the landmark Civil Rights Act of 1964. It's a major, major win for the LGBTQ community. And we have a lot of more work to do ahead of us, but it is a major win. Here, I want to highlight that at our Golden Dome in Trenton, at our state legislature today, a very important bill made it through the House committee and will be moving on to both full floor votes in both houses shortly. That is Assembly Bill A 4226, It is known originally as Assemblywoman Timberlake's bill. It has morphed in different ways, been amended. It is now a compromise or consolidated bill rather between Assemblywoman Timberlake and Assemblyman John Singleton. And it's referred to as the People's Bill because it truly provides real mortgage relief and renter protections for our residents during this pandemic. And it really, really is a very equitable bill that will provide long-term solutions for everyone as we come out of the state of emergency and the eviction suspension, when we expect that there will be an uptick of eviction filings and an uptick in homelessness as people will be displaced from their homes. So that's a major victory, and we encourage our residents to reach out to our representatives and to encourage them to keep moving this bill forward until it is passed fully in both houses and signed by the governor. What else is there? Actually, that's all I've got, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Daffis. And great job with putting together the celebration of that, amazing victory yesterday from at Town Hall. It's beautiful.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for your support. It was beautiful.
Mr. Limbrick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to echo some of what my colleagues have already said. It's been wonderful to see, although not always under the best of circumstances, the community really come out in recent weeks and show their support for a number of movements. The Black Lives Matter protests, there have been protests led by our youth, protests yesterday, one led by teachers. And what was really, I thought, beautiful about yesterday's ceremony, and I give a lot of credit to Deputy Mayor Daffis for this, was the way that a gathering that was focused on Black Lives Matter then sort of transitioned with largely the same audience, with people sticking around and more people joining into a celebration of pride. And it was Mr. Mayor, I know you were fired up at the beginning, and then the deputy mayor was even more fired up in his remarks. So it was a great crowd, I think, and and our school board member Shannon Cuttle also gave some great remarks, and I've just really been so impressed, not just by the elected officials who've come out, but by the members of the public, and especially the young people who've come out. And I think, we really have a lot to be proud of here in this community. The passion and the eloquence of a lot of these young people who've spoke on issues relating to race, on issues relating to gender, on issues relating to sexual orientation, and just issues impacting our society, and the ways in which my generation, those who've come before our generation, have failed to address these issues, and their generation is not going to be satisfied with that. Another thing that has been really encouraging in the past couple of weeks is the extent to which aside from protesting and marching, people have been reaching out to us as elected officials to demand specific policy changes and to learn more about policies here in this community. Deputy Mayor Daffis and I were part of a meeting with the Community Board on Police earlier this month, and we had 2 or 3 dozen people, so probably about 30 people, members of the public, who joined that meeting and asked questions and participated. And that's to be honest, it's back in February when the Community Board on Police organized an in-person meeting with the community, we didn't get nearly that many people. So obviously people are are really passionate about these issues. There have been a lot of questions about, about what the Maplewood Police Department policies are in terms of body cams, in terms of the program known as 8 Can't Wait, and I can just report quickly on that 6 or 7 of those 8, depending on how you read our procedures, were already explicitly part of Maplewood Police Department policy. We're working with the chief to implement the others specifically very soon. Some actually are already part of New Jersey Attorney General guidelines, and the New Jersey Attorney General guidelines, for anyone who saw the news in the last day or so, are also becoming more progressive in terms of giving communities more access to information, more transparency when there's police misconduct. Mr. Mayor, I'm sure you'll talk about it, but I encourage everyone to, come out virtually on Friday night for the forum the township is holding. And because this is our last meeting before before graduations and also before the upcoming election, I want to congratulate all of our graduates here in South Orange and Maplewood, especially those graduating from Columbia High School and moving on to the next chapter in their lives, and for those graduating from South Orange and Maplewood Middle School and moving on to high school. It's sort of an unusual time where they likely won't get to have the pomp and circumstance that most graduates experience. But I want the graduates to know that we're proud of them, and we're wishing them all the best as they move on to their next chapters. And lastly, everyone, please vote. But now we have our next township committee meeting. The election will have already taken place the day before. So, if you haven't gotten your mail-in ballot, please reach out to the county and try to find out what's going on. If you have issues, you can also, as Ms. Fritzen said, contact our township clerk's office if you have questions. But make sure to get those ballots in. This is a really important election, both elections in 2020, the primary and the general election, and we're in unprecedented times. So, but please, voting has never been unimportant, but it has also never been more important than this year in 2020. So I encourage everyone to vote. And Mr. Mayor, that is my report.
Thank you, Mr. Limbrick. Ms. Adams.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I have no major report. I just want to echo everything that's been said thus far. I also want to thank Mr. Daffis and Mr. DeLuca for their work with the business improvement districts on which they liaison on their boards, but also knowing that, we had several meetings, and the public should know that a lot of what we're doing and what I do in my day job is flexible and fluid and trial and error. And, if you see something that's problematic, just let us know. But, all of it is, first of all, hopefully temporary. I don't know how temporary, but, we're all working to try to let our businesses survive through this time. And I encourage everybody to support, if you're still uncomfortable going out, to make sure there's still curbside pickup and takeout is foreseen to be a big part of the restaurant industry for the foreseeable future, for the next couple of years at least, and important on keeping them afloat. So that said, and same with the retail, businesses are bending over backwards to service the community and their customers. So I just, more than ever, I think shopping local and supporting your businesses not only helps our downtowns, our business districts bounce back from this catastrophe that we're all living through, but also if you want to see it from a selfish perspective, the better they do, the higher your property values stay, the more your house is worth. So keep that in mind as you, if you go on Amazon or any place that you can buy local, please do. So, you know, it's sort of been my wheelhouse and my like 24/7 kind of life lately. So it's the forefront of my mind, and tomorrow morning at 8 I'll switch to engineering and public works. But in the meantime, that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. I have just a few items. First, I want to start off by saying that even under the current climate and with COVID-19 on top of that, there's still a census happening. And the latest report that I received is that we're at about, from a town holistically, 72.8%, which is still about 5.5% off where we ended in 2010. On August 11th, so just a month or so away, census workers are going to come to your door. And so, you know, if you are not interested in people you don't know knocking on your door, then I would highly advise you to go online or to, if you have received the mail information, to mail in your census forms. It's not too late, obviously, and understand that this is such a vital thing for our township and your fellow residents, because they take those numbers and tally them to decide how they divvy up the cash. And so if you want to help everybody out so we get more money, then please do your part for your fellow neighbor. You know, just one or two you think that may or may not have filled out the census so far. You know, if you are committed to doing, you know, texting or calling or posting on your social media handle, just, hey, make sure you do the census. We all would greatly appreciate it, and we help each other that way. So just be mindful of that. The testing, I want to also, again, thank Ms. Davenport and her team for their efforts. The testing is ongoing. It's going to continue this week and continue next week as well. I want to thank them because now we have the opportunity to have this access. And, you know, it wasn't easy at first. And I'm not saying it's the most smoothest process. I went last week to get tested again. I've been tested twice now. I haven't received my results yet, but, you know, we want to get tested and tested often as you can. But, you know, this is something that collectively the township is providing as a service to you to help you know where you stand and to be safe. Because as we open up, we want to make sure people feel safe in the procedures that we are laying out in our businesses and with our pool and other amenities, and also just when you're amongst each other in our public parks and other areas as well. So do think about getting testing, and thank you to our health division for their efforts there. I also want to recognize, as Mr. Lindbergh said, that there is graduation coming on June 24th. And if you feel so inclined, some of our police officers and fire officials will be blaring their horns and sirens at 8:20 p.m. on the 24th for 2020 in military time. So if you feel so inclined to yell and scream, or, you know, ring a cowbell on your front stoop for, you know, our almost 500 students graduating from Columbia High School, please join myself and my colleagues in doing so. Mr. Lindbergh is right. This is a very unique year for those who are graduating. And, you know, you know, you hear about what your senior year is about, and this one was different. So, I mean, if we could just take a few minutes and give them something to remember, I think that would be very special. I also want to touch on the fact that our youth have been amazing and dynamic in terms of really expressing themselves and leading us in the unfortunate murder of Mr. Floyd. And there are some events that are coming up. One event that I want to recognize here, if I can do this right here. Hold on. If I can do it. let's try that. Let's try this one here. All right, can you see my screen? Can you see my screen?
No, we see you.
Oh man, okay. Well, I was trying to share some pictures. Well, I'll just read from them. Our Maplewood Youth Advisory Committee is going to be doing a Black Lives Matter protest at noon this Friday, Juneteenth, and they're going to be going from the South Orange Starbucks to the Maplewood Starbucks. They are disappointed by Starbucks' decision to initially tell their employees that they could not wear Black Lives Matter paraphernalia or clothing in their stores, and then under public pressure, they reversed their decision. But they feel, and many people like myself feel also, that the decision to do that initially under this climate speaks volumes and in the wrong way. So they will be protesting the mindset of chains who are focusing, I guess, on other things and not on justice and sensitivity, especially in this climate. So they'll be doing that. And then also I wanted to recognize the Maplewood Youth Coalition, another organization in town that has been doing great work. They've been a part of many of the events that we've had in the last couple of days, and they will be joining with Soma Justice to have a party, a dance party, starting about 8:30 over by the gazebo on Juneteenth, Friday, Juneteenth. And it's just a celebration of Juneteenth, looking at the positive, moment of what Juneteenth means, our liberation from slavery. So please come out and join the Maplewood Youth Coalition as well as Soma Justice as they take a festive and righteously position on Juneteenth. And then I'll talk a little bit about the forum. And I'm sorry I couldn't share my screen. That's again, WebEx, where are you when I need you?
Has Nick allowed you to do that?
Yeah, the host has to let you do that.
I allowed you to share your screen, Mayor. So if you want to try again, give it a shot.
I'll try it again. Let's see if this one works. Tell me what you see it now?
No.
No. All right. Let me try one more time.
You have to click the share screen, and then once you pick the screen, you have to click share again.
Okay. Cool. We use Blue Jeans at work, so this is all right. Yes?
No, sir.
No, sir. That's too bad. Let's try that. Let me try this one. All right. Now is that working?
No.
No.
It says you have permission, so you should be allowed.
Yeah. I'm playing my monitors too to get it done. Let's see. Screen one. No. Let's try this one. How about that? Nope.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, there's many ways to cut. There's many ways to cut a knife, right? That's what they say, right? So let's do it this way then. So sharing with you this way, this is our, for the forum, from awareness to action. If I can get that better there, from awareness to action there. This is Mayor McGehee and the Maplewood Township Committee present from awareness to action, a forum on law enforcement, accountability, mass incarceration, and the treatment of Black people in our community. I know we sent out a press release and I'll send out more links to it. I know we've had several people sign up, but we lined up several speakers. There'll be 3 sessions. The first session where we'll talk about police accountability. We'll be joined by several panelists, including a couple of our members of our Community Board of Police. We'll also be joined by Christina Swarns, who used to work for the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, and also was the attorney who presented in front of the Supreme Court and won a case of the Buck versus the people of Texas in a restorative justice case. We'll hear from those three individuals about police accountability in the process, what happens when an officer allegedly commits a criminal offense or when it's seen that they've done that by their department, and what happens in that process when it reaches, say, the prosecutor's office, and how that changes the ability to be accountable or to bring criminal charges. We'll also hear about mass incarceration in America. We'll hear from our restorative justice program. So we'll hear from Reverend Brenda Wheeler, and also members of our restorative justice program. They'll talk about the program that's been in our community for a little over 2 years now. And they'll talk about the overarching structure, the process, how it works. They'll provide some statistics and really, I think, raise our awareness about a program that exists right here in our community that's doing good work, but looking for more. And then finally, we're going to hear from Black people from Maplewood and South Orange from all walks of lives. We're going to have Black business owners. We're going to have Black middle school students, Black Columbia High School students. We're going to have Black artists from the community, Black leaders of major social organizations, and Black alumni from Columbia High School. And they're all going to, and Black teachers from the school district. And they're all going to share their stories of how they've been made to feel as residents or employees or business owners or straight or gay individuals in our community. And then during these particular awareness sessions, there'll be opportunities for the public to learn how they can take action moving forward. So we look forward to you, all of you, joining us at 7 o'clock on Friday as we have a forum on awareness to action.
Now,
And last but not, oh yes.
I was just going to say, so how do people attend that forum?
So we've sent out a press release. There is a Zoom link, and we'll send it out again tomorrow with the logo, which I was trying to
show us. Is it on the website? Is it on our website?
It will be tomorrow, because with Glenn out, things aren't as smooth as we like. But the last thing I want to touch on is really just a thank you to our community. Everyone has been very respectful, and I think done a great job of listening and working together under circumstances that don't seem rational in some ways. Thank you for having your facial coverings and wearing your mask or asking others to do that. Thank you for social distancing. Thank you for your patience. It is appreciated. These are things that we're asking assertively for you to do, not because we're trying to put any type of control or anything over you. We're trying to do that to help everybody. And so we do understand that it is constraining. We do understand that, but we do appreciate everyone who understands that we're doing it in the best interest of everyone and not for any other particular reason. So thank you for your patience. We're almost there, but we still have to continue to be thoughtful in everything we do. And I think you'll hear more about that as we head into our discussion items. So that is my report. And with that being said, let us go ahead and move forward into our agenda item number 20, our discussion item, which is the 2020 Maplewood Community Pool Fees and Procedures. Mr. Lindbergh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, over the past couple of months, and especially the last few weeks, there's, been quite a sort of moving, fluid situation, no pun intended, in terms of public pools for this summer. And recently, the governor's office has said that they can be open with various restrictions. So our recreation department, our pool advisory committee, and particularly our director of community services, Melissa Mancuso, have all been working very hard to sort of to pivot and adapt their plans for the pool this summer. And what I'm going to present tonight is the recommendations and proposals that that they have come up with. The proposal would be that we open the pool facility on July 6th. So after the 4th of July weekend, this would allow us to have a 10-week pool season. The late Labor Day this year actually helps us out. All 4 of our pools would be open, but we would have reduced capacity with time slots assigned and pre-registration required. So members would need to either go online or call up to reserve a time slot and register. We would do this in 2 phases. We would have phase 1 would be the first 2 weeks. So starting July 6th, the weeks of July 6th and July 13th. We would have 3 sessions or 3 time slots of 2 hours and 45 minutes each, from 10 to 2:45, from 1:30 to 4:15, and from 5 to 7:45. There would be 333 guests allowed in each of those sessions, so we would still get about 1,000 guests in that day, or members in that day. And then after the first 2 weeks, when we've had a chance to ramp up and the staff gets used to the cleaning protocols, and also we get further into July, we would expand to 500 members at a time, beginning July 20th. And we would have 2 sessions each day. They'd be longer. They'd be 4.5-hour sessions. So 1 session from 10 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. The second from 3:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. The plan is to do commuter swim in the morning, even though fewer people are commuting than usual, to do the commuter swim in the morning from 6 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. There would be daily pre-opening cleaning. There would be cleaning in between time slots, as well as staff going around and cleaning throughout the day as necessary. We would have pool managers and lifeguards as usual, as well as deck ambassadors who will assist social distancing. The shower facilities would be closed. The deck furniture and tables would not be available. And that's in part to minimize the cleaning that's going to be required. If they have to go around and wipe down, a table or a chair or a bench every time someone gets up, it just would not be practical. And the last I had heard is it's still not clear whether we would have a concession stand open. I think that's something that is still to be determined, although Ms. Viveros is raising her hand, so she may have more updated information.
We've spoken to Freeman's, so we are going to try to work on a modified contract. We'd still like to offer the service, but with just a modification. So I do have to talk to Roger and coordinate some of the contractual obligations versus, what we could do. But I think there might be some flexibility there. So we'll work that out this week all together. But Freeman's is interested in just in doing something, but just a little bit differently. It's something that obviously he's never done before. So there's, uncertainty here. So either way, we're going to try to work with it.
Thank you. So that would be good, especially as we move into the longer time slots later in July, that would overlap with lunchtime and dinner time. I think people are, it'd be good if we can have the concession stand open. A lot of typical pool season events that we've had to cancel for this year, we can't allow guest passes. This is going to be members only, just because The state has advised that due to contact tracing, it's just not permissible to have the community pools be open to people from outside the community. No private birthday parties. The Mako swim team and Manta Ray's dive team seasons were canceled. The Scott Doney dive camp, mermaid camp, the food truck nights, the DJ nights, the poolside yoga, the float nights, a number of specialized, of pool parties that are often scheduled, paddleboard yoga, as well as the lifeguard certification course. All of these are things that due to the pandemic situation and the governor's orders, we're just not going to be able to accommodate this year. And the last item that I wanted to talk about, and it will require action by the township committee, hopefully tonight, so that people can start signing up for these new member rates, is to talk about the membership fees for 2020. Due to the delayed opening we're going to have, normally we would have been open already, at least on weekends. We're going to lose approximately 1/4 of the planned days we were going to have this pool season. But as I said before, we're helped by the late Labor Day, which would keep the pool open until September 7th. So the proposal of the Recreation Department, the Pool Advisory Committee, is to discount member rates by 25% for the 2020 season from the usual rates. This would take individual membership from $295 down to $221. Senior membership fee from $190 to $143. Couples from $425 to down to $319. A family membership from $495 down to $371. And the large family plus caregiver membership, which is the most expensive membership, from $585 down to $439. Because, as I said, of the governor's orders, we would be omitting for 2020 the out of town resident option that we had offered the past few years. But we would be continuing along with South Orange our longstanding agreement to allow limited people, because of where they're zoned for schools, if they want to join, Maplewood residents join the South Orange pool because their kids go to school in South Orange, or vice versa for South Orange families that have students that go to school in Maplewood, that they would be permitted to join the pool at the Maplewood rate. So that's the proposal. There may be other operational questions in terms of the pool that that I'm not able to answer tonight. But that's the proposal that's been discussed. There have been a few modifications, particularly in the last week, as we've dealt with new guidance from Trenton on this. But that's where we are. We're trying to do our best to have this community resource be available to our residents this year. And it's really a cherished part of the summer for a lot of Maplewood residents and families to go to the pool. And even though we're living in a different world, and we're going to have to take a number of steps to keep people safe, including reducing capacity at the pool, we're still hopeful that it can be a great summer. And I guess I would want to take anyone's views or questions, and then at some point, Mr. Mayor, make a motion to adopt the proposed membership fees so that the Recreation Department can start signing up members with those new rates, and also work on refunding those members who already paid the full rate earlier to adapt to the new rate.
So, Mr. Lundberg, are these new rates, they're basically just kind of deducting the weeks that have been taken away? Is that a fair way to put it, or is it something more than that?
No, I mean, that's pretty much, we're losing, we're losing almost a quarter of the pool season in terms of open days and hours that the pool otherwise would have been open because of not opening until July 6th. So the thought was we should discount the rates by 25%.
Mr. Lundberg, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that, the hope is obviously to encourage people to join because, it's going to be obviously a summer where maybe people aren't able to travel as much as they might have otherwise. So, so having this option, but we can't discount it too much more just because, the pool, does, it has a significant operating cost. Before the first tow goes in the water, the pool costs each year, to not have it open would be very expensive because we wouldn't derive any revenue from it. So we want to derive as much revenue as possible. And even though residents, who are members may not be able to come as often as they might have otherwise because they'll need to sign up for time slots, because of the social distancing and the other events that won't be happening at the pool, we need to avoid a crowded situation. So I think, that was sort of the pro and con thinking in terms of whether to give a deeper discount or give less of a discount was that, we sort of came to the conclusion for a recommendation that 25% was the right amount to discount. But obviously, the governing body sets the fees, so we can have that discussion and decide on whatever number we want tonight. Sorry, Deputy Mayor, I think I cut you off.
No worries, thanks. I think you answered one of my questions. I had a couple follow-up questions, and thanks for your fulsome report. So you basically reported to the public the Maplewood Community Pool Emergency Management Plan for COVID-19 Summer 2020 season, the revised plan that we received earlier today. And thank you for doing that. Do you know if this revised plan was shared with our public health officer?
I don't. Ms. Viveros might know that, or actually Ms. Davenport's on the line, so they would be able to say that. I know that it was sent around, but I honestly don't know whether she had a chance to review it.
It was shared with everyone, and I mean, Candace can speak, but she does constantly communicate with Melissa, the community services department head. So Candace, if you want to just add in if there's anything you did or didn't look at.
Yeah, hi. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
We can.
Yes? Okay,
Yes.
thanks. Yeah, so Missy and I have been in constant daily communication, but I haven't read the full thing, so that was really informative. Mr. Lundberg, to hear all of it, but I had not read the full.
Ms. Davenport, you haven't read the report. Does that mean that you haven't read it because you didn't get a chance to because of everything you're doing, but you did receive it, or you haven't received it at all?
I didn't receive a full revision of it, but Ms. Mancuso and I have been in discussions with it. I know she's been busy putting it together, but I didn't get it before tonight.
Were you privy to the conversations with pool managers regarding the initial start to do the 3 shifts before we go to 2 shifts later on with more people?
No, I wasn't aware of the shifting. I knew that we were going into shifts with 3 shifts, but the longer duration of the 2 shifts, I wasn't aware of that. Although I knew that they were going to increase the pool membership based on what the governor had allowed for outdoor gatherings.
Right. And so this emergency management plan for the pool due to COVID-19, even though you're in daily communications with Ms. Mancuso, it was not shared with the public health officer responsible for COVID-19 mitigation in our community. That's very, very disappointing. And Ms. Viveros, I'm really disappointed about that. So I'm just going to leave it there. I have one other question. Mr. Lembrick, you reported earlier by email to us that, and you said it during your remarks, that the pool managers reached out and they said that they were uncomfortable with the 500 members per shift at the start of the season, that they preferred 3 shifts of 250 members at a time, allowing them at least 45 minutes to clean in between shifts. You then said, you added that you all compromised with them, the managers, on 3 shifts at 333 members per day for the first 2 weeks. If our pool managers are saying that they're uncomfortable at 250, why are we forcing them to do more? At least
I mean, sorry, are you?
I'm here. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, you cut out there for a second, at least for me. But I think I got your question. I mean, I don't think anyone is being forced, and I haven't been party to those conversations directly, but I know initially before the number sort of for public gatherings went up from 250 to 500 for I think it's, July 2nd, although, but certainly before July 6th, the original plan discussed with the pool managers was 3 shifts of 250. And they were comfortable with that. And then when we said we were going to double the shifts to 500, it wasn't, and my understanding, and again, I'm reporting on a conversation that I wasn't directly participating in, that occurred with our director of community services and the pool managers, is that given the increase and sort of unusual burdens that are going to be on the staff in terms of cleaning and enforcing social distancing, that they were more comfortable starting with a smaller group. So the jump from 250 to 500, was intimidating to them, I think, for lack of a better word. And so they said, would it be possible to take the number and spread it out over 3? So as opposed to having 2 shifts of 500, can we spread it out and do the 3 shifts that were originally planned? And we went back and said, well, if we did the 3 shifts, would you be comfortable with us doing 333 versus 250 so we could still have 1,000 members a day? And they said that was fine. They just didn't want to start with 500, and they wanted sort of 2 weeks to ease into it. Given that this is going to be sort of uncharted waters, again, not to no pun intended, but used nonetheless. So yeah, and I think the concern was more logistical than health, just in terms of the staff being able to manage a lot of people potentially checking in at once, and having to monitor cleaning and social distancing.
Deputy Mayor, this is the first that I'm hearing about any staff being apprehensive about coming back to work. I've heard of a lot of other staff and concerns. So this is the first I'm hearing about any concerns about returning to work. And we were all at an OEM meeting last week where we talked about the raising of the capacity and having our fire official at the pool. And that number was much larger than 500. So I do recall that we were all there discussing the raising of the capacity and where we were and how this was all going to be staffed. And everyone was part of that conversation. So without getting into details of the plan, because there's quite a lot that's in there, it was submitted to everybody. So I don't know if anyone had any time to look it over thoroughly, but it's been all laid out. So I'm just it's the first time I'm hearing about any concerns from staff. So if there are any, I'd like to get notice of that as soon as possible so I can address that.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm only referring to a communication from earlier today at 3:30 p.m. that says, quote, "The managers talked among themselves and the returning lifeguards and expressed to our community services director just today that they are not comfortable starting with 500 members per shift at the start of the season. They preferred 3 shifts of 250 members, as well as at least 45 minutes to clean between shifts." And that is an email that you were included on. The bottom line is I'm just trying to get the sense of, yes, we did have an OEM meeting, but we don't make these decisions without the input of the people who have to implement them on the ground. And in light of the public health emergency, which is still in place, by the way, I'm really disappointed that some of this, at least the updated stuff, because we did have to revise this based on the governor's expanding capacity outdoors and giving us specific guidelines to pools. We did have to update this, but apparently this hasn't made its way to our public health officer. So, that gives me some pause, right? Because we want to make sure we all want to vote for the pool. We all want to provide this very important community resource to our residents. We absolutely do. But we want to make sure that we are being very cautious and safe and responsible. That's all I have.
So this is Candace. So I just want to get a sense again. The next 2 weeks starting July 6th and then 2 weeks onward, it would be 3 shifts suggested of 330 roughly people in each shift. And then it moves on to 2 shifts of 500 people per shift. Those are longer shifts. And when does that occur, Mr. Lembrick?
Ms. Davenport, that would be July 20th, so after the first 2 weeks. And this would give staff 2 weeks to sort of adjust to what will, at least for this summer, be the new normal in terms of cleaning protocols and social distancing. And, the concern was also, checking, it's not just going to be a matter of having people, quickly scan their pool ID. They're also going to need to confirm that people have, a reserved time slot at that time. And, like I said, then sort of direct people on the deck in terms of social distancing. So they asked that the first 2 weeks, even if we had to have more shifts requiring more intermediate cleanings, that we start with a smaller number before ramping up to the full 500. So the thought is the first 2 weeks would be 333 per shift, 3 shifts, still allowing 1,000 members a day, and then we would move to 2 shifts of 500 after that sort of 2-week adjustment period.
Thank you. I approve of, I think it's consistent with what the CDC has said about, no guests, no parties, reducing the number of tables and removing that as an option. allowing for bathrooms, but no showers. That's all consistent, I think, with what the CDC and the state health department have said right now. I was agreeable with the 3 shifts of 250. I didn't realize that we were going to switch to longer shifts. Is there a reason why we shift to a longer shifts? Or is it possible to keep it at 3 shifts at potentially 250 and increase it later on?
Can I ask just a process question here? This seems to me to be more of a practice question that's going to be determined by our health officer and the operation of the pool. I'm not sure that we as the policy body need to be making a decision right now about something that could or could not be put into effect on July 20th.
Yeah, I agree. I think we should just be talking about the fees right now and let this go internal with our very capable health officer and recreation chair and everything. So
Are we being asked
No,
to
and I,
open tonight and open the pool on July 6th per this plan?
We are. We
Yes.
are being asked to open it on July 6th and to adopt a new fee schedule. What we're hearing is that there was a proposal at the OEM meeting to have 2 shifts of 500 people per shift. Is that correct?
yes.
And then that was 1,000 people a day. That's now been, that's where we left the OEM meeting last Wednesday. Now that's being proposed to change it to 3 shifts of 333 per shift. Reduce the amount of shifts. So I'm okay with that part of it. And it sounds like our health officer is okay with it. Whether it shifts on July 20th to a different system, I think you all can make that judgment. And if we have to, we can call the OEM together to make that judgment. I don't think we can make it right now.
And let me just be clear that, part of the reason for laying all this out wasn't necessarily because I was looking, for the township committee necessarily to have to make a decision on all of this, but I wanted to sort of lay out what the proposal was, what the current thinking is of the recreation director and the pool managers. Also just to give the public information, since, if we go ahead tonight with this proposal and this fee adjustment, people are going to be signing up for pool memberships, and I want them to at least know what the conditions are that we expect, what the restrictions are going to be, so that they can sign up for this membership with that knowledge. But I agree with Mr. DeLuca and Ms. Adams that some of this is going to continue to be to be a moving target, and that certain changes operationally may be required up or down in terms of shifts and number of bathers. And I think everyone who signs up for the pool, particularly this summer, will be aware that we're in an environment where things can change quickly.
right. And
Thank you, Mr. Lembrecht. Go
sorry,
ahead, Nancy.
I was just going to say, as long as communication is out there to those members, because there's just like everything else we're doing right now, it could change from one week to the next. So we need to be mindful of that and not, go into too much of the nitty gritty here with those kinds of things when they could change with the next executive order or, a few days from now with new recommendations. So.
Absolutely.
So I want to apologize if it was mentioned on the Wednesday OEM call that the director had suggested 500 for these shifts. Whatever is the number that is dictated by the governor as appropriate, then I think we can go with that. My only concern would always be for the safety and the social distancing is able to be done, and I'm sure that will be able to be so. And we're always in constant communication with the recreation department. So I think it can go through if everyone on the township committee agrees.
So we're having a conversation about, one, are we opening the pool on July 6th? Two, are we changing the fees? And three, technically, is our health officer aligned with the rollout plan? Those are the three things that I think we just need to go ahead and resolve. And to the point that was made earlier, rather, I don't have the expertise, nor does anyone else on the TC to decide if it's going to be 1,000 people or 400 people or whatever that number is going to be. So let's just make a decision that if we're going to formally open the pool on July 6th, make a decision if we're going to reduce all the fees basically by 25%, and then make a decision that we're comfortable with the current opening structure that was provided to us within the last week. Does anyone have any objections to those?
So, Mr. Mayor, I guess the only thing I would add, and maybe this is so obvious it goes without saying, but that I would obviously direct or ask our township administrator to direct our recreation director of community services, her staff, and the pool managers to work closely with the health officer and to obviously implement recommendations, and where our health officer says that something should be done differently, obviously I think that should prevail.
And I would agree with that 100%. And I think whatever that final decision is, that has to be ironclad, because when residents are paying their money, they need to understand that this is what they're getting for that expense. So absolutely.
So yeah, the numbers, the numbers have gone up and they keep changing, and they're variable. I know that with this plan, with the 333, it is under what the governor has mentioned, and it was mentioned, I guess, on Wednesday at the OA meeting, and I just didn't realize that. So I think we are being cautious. We are going under what the governor has allowed, which for me is safer to do so, because we want to just see how it goes. It's always been for me about go low and slow and then see how it goes from there. So that's what I think we're doing with this current plan of 333 for 3 shifts. We're taking it as it comes, and we'll see where the cases go at that point. When you move to 2 shifts of 500 each, we're still at 1,000, which is lower than the capacity at the pool, as per Ms. Mancuso, and she's informed me of that. And I think we're on the same page of keeping the numbers not at full capacity at all, but rather lower. So I'm okay with as it is right now, and it's a good plan.
So Mayor, do you need a motion to pass the pool fees and pass the, just move forward with opening July 6th, or do we need to keep discussing?
No, I'm open to entertaining your motion. Can we get a second, please?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so the motion is to accept the new fees and open the pool on July 6th. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing about the fees. I support the change and I support the opening on July 6th. I do think that we did not get the information we asked for about the relationship of the reduction in the fees and how it might impact the expense side of it. I still am unclear about this level of service and how our costs may stay the same or go down. And I'm okay voting that way, but I'm going to charge Ms. Viveros to really look at the staffing there, because I was a little concerned at the OEM meeting. I think I heard that the staffing was going to stay the same as last year. And that troubled me because I don't see how it can be with the declining revenue. We anticipated $915,000 in revenue in the pool this year. That includes the snack bar, the pool parties, the teams and all that. We're cutting a lot of stuff out. And I just hope on the expense side that we're remaining safe, but that we're looking at those expenses in relation to our revenue stream.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Thank you, Mr. DeLuca.
I agree with
Mr.
that.
Veros,
Uh,
Mr. Veros, would you like to address the question?
Sure, we'll get on it and we'll send it to everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I want to thank Mr. DeLuca for framing that really well, as he always does. That's exactly what I was getting into with my remarks tonight here, and with my earlier remarks, which were essentially dismissed curtly, but that's fine. That comes with the territory. We all have thick skin doing this, what we do. So yes, we talked about in our OEM meeting about staffing and what that's going to look like and how that's going to impact expenses, which is totally directly related to our decision to change the fees by 25%. Why is it 25%? Why isn't it 27% or 30% or 24 or 20%? You know, I just feel like we talk about these things. We have all of these meetings. We're all working so very hard, every single person here tonight. And then we don't get the information that we're supposed to get, but we're supposed to make these decisions, not only make the decisions, but also instill confidence in our residents. So I'm going to vote in favor of moving forward and opening the pool and accepting the new fees. But I really, really hope this time that we get the information that we requested, that we talked about, that we asked for before. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Daffis. Any further discussion regarding the motion that's on the floor to open the pool and accept the fees as communicated by Mr. Limbrick? Hearing none, Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Limbrick,
Yes.
Mayor McGehee.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. And so, Ms. Riveros, please provide that information to the TC. And then regarding any other additional plans in lieu of the first phase of opening, that should be outlined and provided. And if necessary, the Township Committee will reconvene as OEM and have a discussion. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Limbrick, for leading that discussion. We'll now move on to our second discussion item, which is the accessory dwelling unit proposed ordinance by Mr. DeLuca.
Thank you, Mayor. So we put this on for discussion because we'd like to move on it. And I want to recognize Mr. Daffis for bringing this to the floor. He went out and did research about the accessory dwelling units as part of the effort to make our community age-friendly and help our seniors find ways to stay in the community and be able to afford living in their home or living on their property, being able to pay the taxes and keep the house up. So essentially, the accessory dwelling unit is a unit. It's either attached to the one family residence or an existing structure like a garage. You can convert a garage into a dwelling unit. And this is used in California, and this is, Mr. Daffis gave us some resources in California. I just found an article that said from January 2017 to June 2019, Los Angeles issued 12,000 accessory dwelling units building permits. So it's catching on. The AARP has been promoting it. They've done some survey on it. And one of the things that they found is that almost 2/3 of adults want to look at this as an option so that they can be near their loved ones. Either they can be near their grandchildren or the family, their child, son or daughter, or even to be able to, son and daughter, to have their parents there and take care of. So it's an alternative to institutionalization or even an elderly person just living alone. So what we've talked about is proposing that accessory dwelling units would be a conditional use in any zone in Maplewood for a single family house. It has to be approved by the building department. There are a set of requirements that we've put forth. the unit can only be 300 square feet, so it's not a large unit. It's a relatively small unit. It's limited to how many people can be there. The most important thing is that either the person living in the primary residence or in the accessory dwelling unit, one person has to be at least 62 years of age. So again, it's a way to help our seniors, giving them another housing option. So I think I'm going to leave it there. I know Mr. Desiderio had some questions about this. I think I'm going to ask him if he would like to raise some of the questions, because I want to also recognize our Director of Community Development, Annette DePalma, who worked on this, and she and I brought it to a final phase. We sent it to Mr. Desiderio to put into Maplewood talk or language, but I think he has a few questions going forward. So, Mr. Desiderio, would you like to raise any of those questions?
You're on mute, Mr. Desiderio.
Here we go.
I was on, this has been going on all night. I had one other things to say, but unfortunately I'm muted, and it's quite frankly very annoying, and I've been texting Mrs. Fritzen and it hasn't been going through. The answer is, yeah, there are issues that we need to go through. I understand the intention here, and I guess what I'm asking Mr. DeLuca is where some of this came from. For instance, like the accessory dwelling should not be greater than 30% of the floor area of the primary unit. I mean, is there some underlying rationale for some of these things?
Yeah, we used as a good portion of this, we modeled after an ordinance from a town in Bergen County. And
okay.
This is what we were talking about.
And we also talked about it. We also talked about it over several meetings of code, and under Mr. Davis's leadership on this whole process, and keeping in mind the size of our lots and all that it goes into trying to maintain the character and of our town and our neighborhoods while being able to accommodate people who want to, bring people into an accessory dwelling.
So, and this goes to lot coverage. I just got a text from Ms. DePalma. This goes to lot coverage. And so it's 30% of the primary dwelling unit. So you can't have two big houses on one lot or two big structures.
All right, so if I have a 2,000 square foot home, I could have a 600 foot accessory dwelling unit.
Correct.
Okay. And if I have a 1,500 square foot, a 400, I got it. The other thing I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say it also, other setbacks and lot coverage apply as well. Right. So that we're not having a 600, too much on a small lot. We still are mindful of impervious coverage and building coverage.
No, and I understand that, and I think we can do those. The thing that I really struggle with, I've actually spoke to Mr. Palm about this. No changes shall be made to the exterior of the residence that would detract from its external appearance. That's impossible.
Yeah, we took that right out of the Bergen County one.
Well, they may have, but there's no way that could possibly be. I mean, our appearance is subjective. It's yes. Impossible to enforce.
I think we can. I don't think that's a deal killer. I think we can finagle that one.
We need to tighten the language, no doubt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can figure it out.
And the other is, have we specifically addressed this issue with the fire department?
They've been at the table.
They have been. Okay,
yes,
good.
Yes.
I don't see any reference to fire in here. I just want to make sure that they're in the loop here with regard to it, because I think in addition to the construction official, the fire official would also need to sign off on it.
I think that's not. We don't have any objection to something like that.
Okay, then let me do some revisions to this, and I'll put it on for introduction at the next meeting.
Yeah, I just want to make sure now. Mayor McGehee and Mr. Lembrick have not been involved in this conversation. I just want to make sure that they're comfortable with us moving ahead.
I'm on board. I think this sounds good to me.
Yeah, I'm just reading a little bit more about it. Yeah, I'm okay for now. If I have any concerns, I'll let you know before you put it to for first passage.
Well, okay. The problem with that is if you do, I don't know how I'll deal with that, but okay, that's not a problem.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I have to be, yeah. I know, but I'm just saying that yeah, yeah. So I don't think I will, but I have to give it another deep read, to be honest with you. So
I think everybody in the past, if someone asks for it to be on for discussion one more time, we honor that. So if someone reads something and we say, I'm not comfortable with going on introduction, can we put it on for discussion one more time? Then we can do that. But otherwise, let's try to get it on if we can for the next meeting. It gives us a couple of weeks.
Absolutely.
We have an extra Tuesday, so it gives us a couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm on board for that.
Okay, we'll do.
That's it.
Thank you, Mr. DeLuca.
I'm sorry I didn't take as much time as the pool. I can keep going if you want.
We're all set. Thank you so much, though.
Okay.
Frank
Before 10
already
o'clock,
thanked
right?
us at the beginning of the meeting.
I said before 10 o'clock.
know.
We still got 7 minutes.
I'm trying.
You're trying to get us on which side? Oh, man. All right. Thank you, Mr. DeLuca. We're now on agenda item number 21, our consent agenda. May I'd like to entertain a resolution or a motion, rather.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt all of the items on the consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Gaffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick,
Yes.
Mayor McGehee.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. We're now on agenda item number 22, public comment on any subject matter. We have 6 attendees left. Is there anyone who would like to, 5 technically, would anyone like to address the Township Committee at this time? Thank you. We will now close our second and final public comment, and we will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we
All in
adjourn.
favor? Perfect. You know, some of us get up at 5:30 in the morning, evidenced by my emails. So this has been another long day. So happy that we can now adjourn. I'll see you at 8 a.m.
8
Meeting
a.m.
adjourned. Thank you,
Okay.
everyone.
See you.
Good night.
In 10 hours. Good night.